It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the island of Sodor.
Most people, when asked about the new series characters, will probably say that they have no personality, no character, that they are just there for merchandise, yada yada yada. And whilst yes, this is kind of true. I mean, not just the newbies, but the old guys who were there from the beginning were also kind of ruined. But within the massive amount of trash, there are still some valuables left within them. So I'm going to try and look for them through all the new characters introduced in the new series, season 8 to 12. So without any delay, let's start it off. Mighty Mac. Oh boy. Yeah, not a very good start here. While I do think his design is an intriguing idea of having two faces in one engine, I have to say that I don't like the character that much. Both of their character. The pull back thing is pretty boring really, and something we have seen a lot previously. There are many engines who have fight a lot in the show. Donald Douglas, Bill and Ben, and now these fellows. Due to the trope getting kind of old here, it makes for a not so interesting story. The story kind of makes them look like two idiots. The only ever episode where they had a proper role was this episode. And as I said, it's pretty boring. We see this concept done again years later in the season 20 episode Love Me Tender, which was infinite times better than this boring thing. Overall, a very bad episode. Molly. I actually have no clue what to say about her. I mean, she's pretty bland if I be honest. There's nothing interesting about her. We don't see her even after a debut episode. And all you get in this one is the typical big engines bully new engines thing. Because that is original, isn't it? Molly's story is really quite bland, and it's something we all have seen before, and there's nothing new which shows Molly as a good character. The only conclusion I can draw is that she's maybe shy and insecure, and I'm not even sure about that one. People wanted her to be in the steam team in season 22, but I actually think she's not even that great of an improvement over Rebecca, so what's the point? So yeah, nothing much to talk about her. Neville. Now with the plot of Neville's debut episode, I think it did have some potential. Neville's design is actually quite unique, and I really like how they use this squarish shape as a plot point in the story. However, the story is also its main problem. This episode just shows the engines of Sodor are pricks, and it also has the trope of Thomas hates the new engine. Overall, a pretty meh episode, but I do really think that its boxy shape, the Diesel's plot, and the ending was handled well. The story is interesting and if executed well enough could have been pretty good. And Neville is a pretty likable character too. So yeah, decent. Dennis. Dennis, in my personal opinion, is a pretty cool character. I know many people dislike him, but I personally don't hate him that much. He's actually kind of relatable too. We have all had that one day where we feel like not doing anything at all, and Dennis reflects that pretty well. My only complaint would be that he should have had a little more development, and also if he was a recurring character, they could have given him a sort of redemption storyline around season 12 or 13. Jeremy. I have nothing to say about him. He's just a plane, I guess, and he flies around, cause that's what planes do. Yeah, not much to say about this guy. I don't just like his character, but I also don't like his design here. How the hell does the pilot see outside? His design looks like as if he's from the Cars universe, only more realistic. If I was traveling in that plane, I would definitely not feel safe. His debut episode was also boring and bland. Freddy. I don't like him, because he has nothing to like about. Guess he's old and likes to race a lot in the dangerous and twisty line. I think I would have liked him a little more if his character's existence wasn't so confusing. So Sir Handel knows who Freddy is, but Scarloey and Renee don't? even though the both of them were working there even before the handle was built probably. Or did Freddy work at the Mid-Sodor Railway? This is just confusing. Also, why didn't they just make an Ivor Hugh model for this one? He is after all the real number 7. And I bet you, if Ivor Hugh was featured in more stories, he would have had much more character development than this guy. Or if you had to have Freddy, maybe you could have had him meeting Scarlo and Renee's instead of Sir Handel, and erased Sir Handel or Peter Sam instead. But overall, not very interesting. Rocky. I actually really like this guy, especially after seeing him in the Brenner era. I do like the fact that they introduced a breakdown crane with a face here, before they, you know. Rocky is a character that is still very heavily used, and I would have probably liked him even more if he was not introduced in probably one of the worst episodes in the entire series. But yeah, I really do like him. His persona is pretty nice. Rosie. Now this, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best character to come out of the new series. She's actually really well written for a new series character. I really like her bubbly personality that she has and how she's just a fangirl of Thomas. I mean, I could probably imagine her just reading the books and just fangirling over Thomas. Not just in this episode, but also in season 21, I really liked her. I loved how Rosie had grown up as a character now. In the new series era, she used to be bubbly, sweet, and used to like spend time with Thomas a lot. While in the Brenner era, she has now kind of matured a lot. You know, the irony here is that Rosie's class actually replaced a lot of Thomas's brothers, so Rosie kind of ended up scrapping many of Thomas's brothers. So maybe that's why Thomas was angry with him? Who knows? But anyways, I like Rosie a lot, and she's a pretty good character. Hector. Hector is actually a pretty relatable character. When we all were young, we all were always once afraid of this one thing, but then realized it was harmless. Same goes for Hector here. It also makes Hector a pretty interesting character to watch in this episode, to see what is underneath all that toughness of his. I also do like Thomas's character in Hector the Horrid episode, as we see his brave side a little, and now he has had enough of Hector and he was ready to go head to head with him. I also really liked what they did with him in season 12. James works it out. We see how he's not a big bully now and is actually trying to help the engines and keeps the trucks in line. Whiff. I really love Whiff. I just like his character so much, on how he doesn't care what the other engines think about his job. He's ready to do his work properly and that's it. This is also a good lesson for kids. Do whatever you like and don't give much notice to what others think. I do, however, have one complaint. That is Whiff's model. Whiff is based off the engine Aerolite, who was used to pull fast-running passenger trains. And what does Whiff do? He shuns garbage trucks in the waste dump. Pretty awful way to honor the bases. I mean, we never see Whiff do what he was actually built for, pulling passenger trains, which he does only once. Except that, yeah, I really like Whiff a lot. Billy. Alright, let's be honest here. This guy right here is the worst character in probably the entire new series, if not the whole series. This is the only episode he appears in, thank God. We see Billy being a total prick and a brat. Why is he a brat? For absolutely no reason. If someone tells him what to do, he says,
Thomas, huffed Billy, stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine.
I really hate him. A lot. How did anybody at the headquarters even approve this guy? Even later on, Thomas gives up on him. And to be honest, I would have done too. And when Thomas says, screw it, do whatever you want, Billy runs out of water. Great freaking job. I do like that this is the only episode he appears in, but I would have wanted to see him later on, where maybe he could have been a good character, but who knows. Overall, Billy is just an imbecile and a brat. I want to use much more meaner words to describe him, but YouTube unfortunately wouldn't like that. Hank. I think Hank is quite an enjoyable character. I really like his persona and how he's just there and wants to help. I also like the fact that they are now diversifying the show and bringing in American engines. Even though Hank would probably crush the rails and bridges and also break all the tunnels on Sodor. But yeah, I really do like Hank. But in his debut episode, I would have much rather have someone like Gordon, Henry, or even James instead of Thomas. I mean, look at them both. Does Thomas look in any way, shape, or form even comparable to Hank? I would have loved to see Hank interact with the other big engines, or maybe even interact with Henry and Gordon about heavy goods trains and such. This episode would have been actually much better had it been Henry or Gordon, or maybe even the both of them. Not just them, but I would love to see Hank interact with the other big engines of Sodor, like Murdoch, or maybe even Hero later on. Overall, I like him a lot. Colin. Colin is just boring. He has no character. I have no clue why did they add him, except maybe the fact that they worked for the very expensive set and they needed some merchandise from him. I don't have anything to say about Colin. He's bland, boring, and just created for merchandising purposes. Flora. Flora is basically Molly, but as a tramp. She too is boring, bland, and forgettable. And she literally doesn't do anything after this episode. She just exists to show there's another tram engine in the show. And she also exists for the very obvious reason. I'm not saying that the idea is bad though. I knew a tram engine could be good and does have cool story opportunities. But no, instead they turned her into a one-dimensional bland character that no one nowadays remembers. And that was all the characters done. And overall, I really disliked and hated 7 of those characters. But I also really did like 7 of the other characters. So pretty even. You know, we always hate on the new series for this and that. Characters were only made for merchandise and etc. But I have to say that some of the characters are actually pretty good and seem to be as if the writing team actually put effort into writing them. This just goes to show that not all the new series characters are just some boring engines. Some of them do have their own unique personality. While there were a lot of flawed and terrible characters, there were also some who are still loved by fans today.